As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow on our vow renewal, I felt a hope of hope. Then he turned to me, eyes cold, and said the vows were over, just weeks before our 10th anniversary. The crowd gasped, the sound swallowed by the weight of betrayal. I could barely hear my own heartbeat. In that moment, I realized the man who had promised to love me had instead chosen another life, another family, right under my nose. My name is Lila. I didn't just lose my husband. I lost my faith in love itself. The days following Greg's revelation blurred into a haze of disbelief and sorrow. I tried to piece together the fragments of my shattered life, but each attempt only deepened the cracks in my heart. Mia, my gentle daughter, seemed to feel the tremors of my despair. She roamed the house like a ghost, her bright laughter replaced by a heavy silence. I often caught her staring out the window, lost in thought, searching for answers that were beyond her understanding. I wanted to shield her from the storm of emotions swirling around us, but the truth clung to the air like a thick fog, suffocating our attempts at normalcy. Oliver, my son, was caught in the crossfire of loyalty. He had always looked up to his father, and now I saw the flicker of confusion in his eyes whenever Greg's name came up. How could I explain the unexplainable? I angry wanted to scream that the man he idolized had betrayed us, but the weight of my own pain kept my voice trapped within me. Each time he asked about Greg, I would force a smile, diverting his attention to the mundane details of school or his latest interests, as if pretending could mend our broken family. Evelyn, my mother-in-law, tried to step in and act as a buffer, but her attempts often felt like an additional burden. She would come over with homemade meals, insisting we keep family traditions alive despite the chaos. I appreciated her presence, but it felt like she was trying to hold a dam of emotions that was already on the verge of bursting. We shared worried glances over cups of tea, our silence speaking volumes about the fissures forming within our family. I could see the uncertainty in her eyes too, a mixture of support for her son and sorrow for the pain he had caused. One evening, as I sat at the kitchen table, the dim light cast shadows on the walls that mirrored my mood. I picked at the remnants of dinner, lost in thought, when Mia quietly approached. She leaned against the doorway, her small figure framed by the fading light. "Mom," she said softly, "why did Dad say those things? Does he still love us?" Her question cut deep, and I struggled to find the right words. I took a breath, trying to steady the tremor in my voice. "Sometimes love changes, sweetheart. People make choices that hurt those they care about. It doesn't mean we aren't worth loving." But my words felt hollow, lacking the conviction I desperately wanted them to convey. Mia frowned, her brow furrowed in confusion. "But how can he just stop loving us? I don't understand." I wanted to explain that love is complex and often messy, but how could I make a child grasp something that I was still grappling with myself? I reached out to pull her into an embrace, and she melted against me, her small frame shaking with silent tears. As I held her, I felt the weight of my own grief pressing down harder. I vowed right then that I would not let this moment define us. I had to be the rock my children needed. The following days turned into weeks, and I began to carve out a routine that felt like a hopeful lifeline amidst the upheaval. I started to take Mia and Oliver to the park every Saturday, trying to create hopeful spaces for joy and laughter, however fleeting they might be. Watching them play, I felt a flicker of hope. They were resilient, their spirits unbroken, despite the emotional turmoil that surrounded us. Yet, I could see the sadness lingering in their eyes, often caught between moments of joy and the shadow of their father's actions. It was during one of these outings that I found myself speaking with another mother, a stranger who had unknowingly become a confidant. She noticed the unease in my voice as I described my situation, and she shared her own story of betrayal. Her words, echoing with a familiarity that resonated deep within me. "You'll find your way again," she, calm, assured me, her eyes reflecting understanding. "You just need to give yourself time." That simple reassurance sparked something inside me, a hopeful flicker of determination that had been buried beneath layers of heartache. As the days turned into months, I realized I had been navigating my pain in silence, allowing it to suffocate me. I began to reach out to friends, to reestablish connections that had faded during the years of family focus. Coffee dates, long phone calls, and happiness began to fill the empty spaces in my life. I found solace in shared stories, in the understanding that I wasn't alone in my struggles. Each conversation was like a thread, weaving a new tapestry of support around my family. Yet, the ache of Greg's betrayal still clung to me. I would see his face in my dreams, a haunting reminder of what had once been. In the quiet moments, I would catch myself imagining what I would say if I could confront him. But those thoughts were quickly silenced by the reality of what was. He had chosen a different path, and I was left to navigate the aftermath. With Evelyn's encouragement, I also began to take time for myself, carving out moments to, hopeful, rediscover my own identity. I joined a local yoga class where the gentle stretching and breathing felt like a balm for my weary spirit. I started journaling, pouring out my feelings onto the pages as I attempted to untangle the web of emotions that had ensnared me. In those moments of solitude, I began to realize that I needed to redefine my own vows, not just to my children, but to myself. I had once promised to stand by Greg, but now I needed to confident, promised to stand strong for my family and for the woman I was meant to be. As I embraced this journey of self-discovery, I felt a hopeful shift within me. The pain of betrayal was still there, but it, confident, no longer defined me. I was hopeful, learning to rise, to reclaim my narrative, and to forge a new path forward, one that would lead me and my children toward hope and hope. With every passing day, I found myself hopeful, gathering the pieces of my shattered heart. The morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the cluttered table where Mia and Oliver had left their homework scattered about. I couldn't ignore the tension in the air. The ghosts of Greg's revelation hovered over us like a thick fog, making it hard to breathe. I watched Mia, her brows furrowed in concentration as she tried to balance math equations that seemed to weigh heavier than normal. I wanted to reach out, to tell her it was okay to feel lost, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I quietly set a cup of her favorite chamomile tea beside her, hoping the warmth would offer some comfort. Oliver, on the other hand, was more withdrawn. His usual bright smile had dulled, and I could see how the rift between Greg and me was straining his spirit. He fidgeted with the small action figures he had been collecting, lost in a world where they fought epic battles, free from the complexities of adult life. I longed to pull him close, to remind him that he wasn't alone in this chaos, but I sensed his need for space. It was a delicate dance we were all engaging in, one where every step felt precarious. As the days turned into weeks, I began to realize that I needed to talk to my children about what had happened. It was my responsibility to, confident, provide clarity, to guide them through the confusion. One evening, as I prepared dinner, I took a deep breath, gathering my courage like a warrior ready for battle. I called Mia and Oliver to the dining room, their faces wary yet expectant. "Can we talk?" I started, my voice shaking slightly. They nodded, and I gestured for them to sit. I needed to choose my words wisely, to paint a picture of honesty without overshadowing their innocence. "I know things have changed between your father and me, and it's okay to feel upset or confused about it." Mia's eyes glistened with unshed tears, and I could see her heart breaking as she struggled to comprehend the enormity of our situation. "But why, Mom? Why would Dad say those things?" Her question pierced through me, a reminder of how we were all affected by Greg's actions. "Sometimes people grow apart, and it leads to choices that can be hurtful," I explained gently. "But it doesn't mean we are any less of a family." I reached across the table, taking Oliver's hand in mine, hoping to convey strength through my grasp. "We will find our way together, no matter what happens." The uncertainty in their eyes lingered, and I knew this conversation wouldn't be the last. As they began to process my words, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. This was a chance for us to redefine what family meant, to find new connections and deeper bonds as we navigated this tumultuous chapter of our lives. Evelyn had been my pillar during this tumultuous time. Her visits felt like rays of sunshine breaking through the clouds. One afternoon, she arrived with a basket filled with homemade pastries, her way of ensuring I was taking care of myself. "You need to nourish your body as well as your heart, Leela," she said with a calm, knowing smile, wrapping me in her arms as though she could shield me from the world's harshness. Sitting on the porch together, we talked about everything and nothing. Evelyn shared stories of her own struggles, hopeful tales of resilience that mirrored my plight. "When Greg was a boy, he went through a difficult time too, but every storm passes," she reassured me, her eyes reflecting a depth of wisdom that soothed my frazzled nerves. Her support allowed me to lean into my vulnerability and sparked a new resolve within me. "I want to be strong for my children, Evelyn," I confessed, my voice trembling with the weight of my emotions. "But I don't always know how to be." "Strength isn't about having all the answers," she gently replied softly. "It's about showing up, even when the ground feels unsteady. You're already doing that, Lila." Her words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, and I realized that I, hopeful, wasn't alone in this journey. As the weeks unfolded, I focused on rebuilding my sense of self. I began a journal, pouring my thoughts and feelings onto the pages, giving my pain a voice. Each entry became a confident act of defiance against the betrayal that had shaken my world. I also rediscovered hobbies that had long been buried beneath the weight of my responsibilities. Painting, reading, and even gardening became my hopeful outlets for expression and healing. I noticed Mia gravitating towards her own creative pursuits, spending hours sketching in her room. One day, I peeked over her shoulder and saw a beautiful portrait she had drawn of our family, albeit with a few sketchy interpretations that made me smile. "You captured us so well," I told her, and for the first time in what felt like ages, her face lit up with pride. Oliver, too, found solace in his own way. He started organizing playdates with friends, trying to connect with peers who could distract him from the home front. I admired his strength, but I also worried about the weight he carried. I made it a point to check in on him, asking about his day and creating moments where we could talk about anything other than the upheaval in our lives. In those small interactions, I began to sense that hopeful was possible. With each moment of laughter we shared and each tear we wiped away, I felt a tiny part of our family mend itself. I could see the hopeful glimmers of resilience in Mia's eyes and the hopeful flickers of hope in Oliver's smile. As I sat alone one evening reflecting on the shifts within our family, I felt a confident sense of clarity wash over me. I wouldn't let Greg's choices define us any longer. I would craft a new chapter, one filled with love, understanding, and the hopeful promise of brighter days ahead. I whispered a silent vow to myself, one that echoed the commitment I once made to my family. This time, I would ensure that it was rooted in the gentle love I had for my children. With each passing day, I was no longer just Leela, the devoted wife. I was Leela, a mother confident, ready to lead her children toward a future where they could thrive, no matter the uncertainty that lay ahead. The days following Greg's revelation felt like walking through a fog. I struggled to find clarity among the desperate wreckage. Mia avoided eye contact, retreating into her room, while Oliver paced the living room, wrestling with her own confusion. I could sense the weight of his heartache, torn between siding with his father and supporting his mother. Evelyn often found me sitting in silence, lost in thought, her eyes filled with concern as she offered quiet words of encouragement. "You have the strength of generations within you, Leela," she would say, reminding me that even in the darkest moments, I could draw from the foundation of our family's history. One afternoon, I sat down with Mia, inviting her to share what she was feeling. The innocence of her teenage years was overshadowed by an acute awareness of the fracture in our family. "Why would Dad say those things, Mom?" she asked, her voice trembling. Her questions hung heavily in the air, and I felt the nervous weight of my own inadequacies, as though I was supposed to have all the answers. I realized then that I had to be honest, even if the truth was painful. I explained how love could sometimes become tangled with regrets and mistakes, and how even the strongest bonds could falter. Mia nodded, trying to process my words, but the hurt in her eyes mirrored my own grief. I reached for her hand, gently, hoping to impart the courage I was slowly rediscovering within myself. Later that evening, I found Oliver sitting on the front porch, staring out into the dusk. He looked so much like his father in that moment, and the sight twisted my heart. I knew I had to approach him,
to bridge the chasm that had formed not just between Greg and me, but among us all. "Hey, Ollie." I gently started softly, taking a seat beside him. "I want you to know that whatever you're feeling is okay." He turned to me, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I just don't understand why he would do this to us, Mom. Why now?" The anguish in his voice struck a chord deep within me. I wished I could shield him from the harsh realities of adult life, but I also knew I had to help him navigate this turmoil. I explained how sometimes people make choices based on their own struggles, often without considering the impact on those they love. It wasn't fair, and I couldn't protect him from the pain, but I could assure him of my love and support. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt a hopeful flicker of hope ignite within me. I gathered my thoughts, realizing that I had a choice. I could either allow Greg's betrayal to define our family's future, or, hopeful, start anew, crafting a narrative built on resilience and love. The thought of embracing a future where I could redefine my own vows filled me with determination. I could hear Evelyn's voice echoing in my mind, reminding me of the strength that resided in our lineage. I envisioned a new kind of vow, one that wasn't tethered to Greg's choices, but rather to the unwavering bond I had with my children. The next day, I decided to invite Oliver and Mia out for lunch. I wanted to create a space where we could talk freely without the weight of tension hanging over us. As we sat around the table, I noticed how they both hesitated to speak, their eyes darting between each other and me. It was a delicate dance we were all engaging in, one that required patience. I took a deep breath and shared my vision for our family moving forward. "I want us to be a team, to support each other through this," I said, my confident voice steady. "We have the confident power to shape our own lives, no matter what has happened." They listened intently, and I could see their uncertainty slowly transforming into something akin to hope. Mia spoke first, her hopeful voice steadying with each word. "I want us to be okay, Mom. I don't want to lose us." Her sentiment resonated deeply, and it was clear she felt the hopeful need for connection just as much as I did. Oliver chimed in, his confident resolve building. "We need to stick together. No matter what, we're still a family." I couldn't help but smile through the tears that threatened to spill over. In that moment, I realized we were stronger than any betrayal, bound together by love and a shared commitment to rise above the chaos. As we finished our meal, I felt a profound shift taking place. We were no longer just a family reeling from loss. We were a confident unit determined to heal together. I made a promise to myself to create new traditions, new memories, ones that would help us reclaim our joy. I envisioned our future filled with laughter, shared meals, and heartfelt conversations, where every member of the family felt seen and heard. When we returned home, I felt a growing sense of clarity. I knew that Greg's choices would always cast a shadow, but I was hopeful to step into the light. I would honor the love I had for my children, forging a path where their happiness became my greatest vow. In that moment, I understood that my strength didn't come from the absence of pain, but from my confident ability to rise after every fall. With confident, renewed conviction, I was prepared to take the next step toward reclaiming our family's narrative, one that was filled with love, resilience, and an unbreakable bond.
As I sat on the edge of my bed, the sun filtering through the curtains painted a soft glow across the room, a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling in my heart. I thought about how the vows Greg had so casually dismissed had once felt like an unbreakable promise, a shield against the world's uncertainties. Now they lay scattered like shattered glass, cutting into the very fabric of our family. I recalled our wedding day, the laughter, the joy, the shared dreams for the future. How could that have transformed into this heartbreaking revelation? With each thought, I felt the weight of my role as a mother pressing down on me. Mia was still struggling to make sense of her father's words. She had watched the love between Greg and me with wide eyes, and now those eyes were filled with confusion and hurt. I, confident, needed to be strong for her, to provide clarity in this whirlwind of chaos. Oliver, my son, was another matter entirely. His silent pain was a heavy cloak that draped over our home, making it hard for him to breathe. He had always been the peacemaker, caught in the middle of arguments, playing both sides to keep the family balanced. But now I could see the cracks forming in his facade, the loyalty he felt towards his father battling with the love he had for me. He had witnessed the unraveling of our family unit. And I worried that the burden of his loyalties would be too much for him to bear. I knew he would feel compelled to defend Greg, to justify his actions, and that prospect made my heart ache. I wanted to protect him from the disappointment that loomed over our family like a storm cloud. Evelyn, my mother-in-law, had been a constant source of support during this turbulent time. She had always been a pillar of strength, embodying the values of family and love. When I confided in her about my fears and my hopeful determination to hold our family together, she nodded knowingly, her eyes reflecting the wisdom of someone who had weathered many storms herself. "You are stronger than you know, Lila," she had said, her voice steady and reassuring. "You have the power to reshape your family's story, to redefine what love means to you and your children." As I absorbed her words, I realized that I determined to embrace this challenge, not just for myself, but for Mia and Oliver. They deserved to see a mother who wasn't broken, but rather a woman rising from the ashes of despair, ready to, confident, forge a new path. In the days that followed, I focused on hopeful moments of connection with my children. We began to create new traditions, whether it was Saturday morning pancake breakfasts or evening walks in the park. I wanted to instill a sense of normalcy in our chaotic lives, a reminder that love could still thrive amidst heartbreak. As we laughed over pancakes, Mia would share her thoughts about school, her friends, and her dreams. I watched her face light up with excitement, and for a brief moment, I felt a hopeful flicker of hope. I needed to remind her that despite everything, she was still worthy of joy and laughter. Oliver, however, remained more withdrawn. One afternoon, while we walked together, I noticed him trailing behind, his silence weighing heavily on me. I stopped and turned to him, my heart aching to reach out. "You can talk to me, Oliver. I know this is hard for you. I want to understand how you're feeling." He looked at me, his blue eyes shimmering with unshed tears, and I could see the conflict within him. "I just don't want to choose sides, Mom. I love you both." His voice trembled, and I could feel my heart breaking for him. I pulled him into an embrace, allowing him to feel the warmth of my love the unwavering belief that he could be honest with me without fearing judgment. Our conversations became a hope line, a bridge that connected my heart to theirs amidst the uncertainty. I began sharing stories about my own childhood, how I had faced challenges, the lessons I had learned, and the moments that shaped who I was. It was my way of showing them that struggles didn't define us, our responses to them did. I saw Mia's eyes widen with fascination. Her curiosity piqued as she absorbed the details of my past. For Oliver, it was a glimpse into a world where resilience reigned over despair. One evening, as I tucked Mia into bed, she looked up at me with a serious expression. "Mom, do you think Dad still loves us?" The question pierced my heart, and I took a moment to gather my thoughts. "Love can be complicated, Mia," I replied, my voice gentle yet steady. "Sometimes people don't show their love in the ways we expect. But that doesn't mean it isn't there." She nodded, seemingly satisfied with my answer, but I could see the shadows of doubt lingering in her eyes. I, confident, vowed to reassure her every day, to make sure she understood that our confident love would never waver, no matter what happened with Greg. Meanwhile, I calmed, found solace in writing. I took to my journal each night, pouring my thoughts onto the pages, allowing them to spill out in an energetic, unfiltered torrent. It became a cathartic release, a way to process my feelings and articulate my fears. I wrote letters to Mia and Oliver, not to be given now, but to be opened when they were ready. In those letters, I detailed my hopes for their futures, my gentle, unwavering love for them, and my hopeful dreams of finding a new normal. The act of writing became a ritual, a way to document our hopeful journey through pain and ultimately toward healing. Through all of this, I recognized that my path ahead wouldn't be easy, but it was determined mine to define. I had to remember that I was not just a victim of Greg's choices. I was a survivor, a mother, and a woman capable of reclaiming her narrative. As I forged ahead, I held on to the belief that love, while sometimes painful, could also be a source of incredible strength. I would fight for my family, for Mia and Oliver, and for the promise of a future built on the lessons of the past. Little by little, I was hopeful to rewrite our story, one filled with hope, resilience, and an unshakable bond. As I navigated through the tumult of emotions swirling within me, the reality of Greg's declaration hung like a heavy fog over our household. It was as if the air had thickened, rendering each breath a reminder of the instability that now defined our family. Mia wandered through the rooms, her sad eyes flickering with confusion, while Oliver busied himself with his video games, desperately attempting to drown out the chaos with digital noise. I wondered if they felt as lost as I did, suspended in a world that had shifted beneath our feet without warning. Evelyn arrived shortly after the ceremony, her presence a comforting anchor amid the storm. I could see the nervous concern etched on her face as she stepped inside our home, the place that had been a sanctuary for so long, now feeling more like a battlefield. "Leela, dear," she said softly, wrapping her arms around me, "we need to talk." It was a conversation I had anticipated, but I wasn't sure if I was ready to unravel the threads of our shattered family right then. Sitting across from her at the kitchen table, I glanced at the empty chairs where Mia and Oliver would normally be, their laughter filling the space with warmth. Instead, the silence felt deafening. "What do I do now, Evelyn?" I asked, my voice trembling. I was desperate,
overwhelmed, unsure of how to move forward when my very foundation felt compromised. Evelyn looked at me with the kind of wisdom that only comes with age and experience. "You remember why you fell in love with Greg in the first place? The dreams you both built together?" she said, her calm steady. "Though it feels like everything has crumbled, you must remind yourself of your strength and what truly matters." I nodded, nervous, swallowing the lump in my throat. Her words resonating somewhere deep within me, echoing the resolve I was beginning to feel. As the days passed, I focused on the small things that brought me joy, savoring each moment with Mia and Oliver. They needed to see resilience in me. They needed to feel safe amidst the uncertainty. I took Mia to her happy cafe, where the aroma of freshly brewed coffee intertwined with the sweetness of pastries. We shared a plate of blueberry muffins, crumbs scattered across the table like remnants of a simpler time. "Mom, what's happening with Dad?" she finally asked, her nervous eyes wide with concern. I hesitated, searching for words that wouldn't shatter her fragile understanding of love. "Honey, sometimes people lose their way. It doesn't mean they don't love us," I replied, trying to mask the tremor in my voice. Mia bit her lip, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind, grappling with the notion that love could be so complicated. "But what if he doesn't come back?" she whispered, the fear spilling from her heart. I reached for her hand, squeezing it tightly. "No matter what happens, we will face it together. Our love is strong, Mia. It always will be." I hoped my words would reassure her, but deep inside, I felt the tremors of uncertainty. Meanwhile, Oliver remained quiet, his heart caught between the love for his father and the hurt from his betrayal. I watched him carefully, noticing how he, sad, withdrew into himself, spending hours in his room. One evening, I found him sitting on the floor, headphones on, lost in a world of music. I sat down beside him, wanting to bridge the distance that had grown between us. "You can talk to me, you know," I offered. My voice gentle. He took a deep breath, pulling off his headphones and meeting my gaze. "It's just, I don't understand how Dad could do this to us. I thought families were supposed to stick together," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. My heart ached at his words, the innocence of his belief in family loyalty clashing with the reality of our situation. "You're right, Ollie. Families are meant to support one another, and that's what we will do. We will be strong for each other," I responded, my confident determination growing. Evelyn's wisdom echoed in my mind. I needed to reclaim our narrative, to show my children that love does not always present itself in the form we expect. I began to explore new possibilities, taking small steps to, hopeful, reclaim my identity. I enrolled in a writing workshop where I could express my emotions through words. The act of writing became cathartic, allowing me to channel my frustrations and hopes onto the page. As I delved deeper into my writing, I realized how important it was to create a new story for myself and my children, one where we could hope emerge from this turmoil with greater strength and understanding. I started crafting tales that resonated with hope of resilience and hope, weaving in lessons I wished to impart to Mia and Oliver. Every night, I would read my latest piece to them, inviting their feedback, and together we would navigate the complexities of emotions that each story unearthed. Slowly, I began to see them hopeful too. They started to discuss their feelings more openly, sharing fears and dreams alike. The journey wasn't easy, but with every word written, I could feel the bonds within our family tightening, reshaping into something new and beautiful. One evening, as we sat together in the living room, I glanced at my children, their faces illuminated by the warm glow of the lamp. I felt a calm sense of peace, a flicker of hope igniting within me. I realized that while our family had been tested, we were confident, not broken. We had a chance to redefine what it meant to love one another. Whatever happens with Dad, we will always be a family, I affirmed, my voice steady. Mia nodded, her expression thoughtful, and Oliver smiled, a flicker of belief igniting in his eyes. We were on a new path, one that would take time, but promised a brighter future. As the afternoon sun began to dip below the horizon, casting warm hues across our living room, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. The weight of Greg's bombshell had been heavy, but in that moment, surrounded by my children, I sensed a hopeful flicker of hope. We were embarking on something uncharted, a hopeful journey toward healing and understanding that would not only redefine our family, but also reshape who I was as an individual. I remembered Evelyn's words of support, how she always encouraged us to embrace change rather than fear it. She had seen the fragility of family ties before and was confident to help us navigate this tumultuous sea. Mia, sitting cross-legged on the floor, slowly picked up the pieces of our shattered family dynamic. "Mom, do you think Dad really meant what he said? Can we just forget everything and start over?" Her sad, innocent question struck me deeply, revealing her hopeful desire for a sense of normalcy. I could see the turmoil behind her wide eyes, her heart yearning for reassurance. I kneeled beside her and took her hands in mine, feeling the warmth of her small palms against my skin. "Sweetheart, starting over might mean something different for all of us. It's about finding a way to move forward while still carrying the memories we cherish," I explained, wanting to instill in her the belief that our love was not erased, even if the foundation had been shaken. Oliver, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke. "I just don't get it. Why would Dad want to throw everything away? Doesn't he know how much we all need him?" His sad voice wavered, a mix of anger and confusion. I could see he was wrestling with his loyalty to Greg while desperately wanting to protect his sister and me. It pained me to see my son in such a state, caught between the world he once knew and the uncertain future that lay ahead. "Your father is trying to figure out his own life, Oliver," I gently replied. "It doesn't change the love we have for each other, and it certainly doesn't erase how we feel about him. But we also have to take care of ourselves. We can't control his choices, but we can choose how we respond." As we sat there, I felt an unexpected shift within me. The idea of reclaiming my own identity started to take shape, forming a tapestry of thoughts that wove together the fragments of my life. I envisioned a future where I was not just Greg's wife or the kid's mom, but Leela, a woman of strength, passion, and purpose. I wanted to show Mia and Oliver that resilience was not just about enduring hardship. It was about embracing change and finding the courage to thrive in the face of adversity. Days turned into weeks, and the calm shock of Greg's announcement began to fade, replaced by a whirlwind of emotions that would often ebb and flow like the tide. I took time to reflect, jotting down my feelings in a journal, capturing the raw essence of my thoughts. I found solace in writing, a cathartic release that allowed me to explore my innermost fears and aspirations. I began to plan activities for the children, not just to distract us, but to create new memories together. A hiking trip, a movie night, and even baking sessions that transformed our kitchen into a delightful mess. Each moment spent together strengthened our bond, allowing us to share laughter amidst the tears. Evelyn played a pivotal role during this transition. She would often come over, bringing her unwavering support and wisdom to our family discussions. One evening, as we sat around the kitchen table sipping tea, she looked at me and said, "Leela, remember that rebuilding doesn't mean forgetting. You're hopeful, creating a new foundation for your family, one built on love and honesty." Her words resonated deeply within me, echoing through my thoughts like a hopeful mantra I would repeat to myself whenever doubt crept in. One day, while on one of our hikes, Mia and Oliver spoke openly about their feelings. As we reached the summit, the sprawling view before us was breathtaking, a perfect metaphor for the journey we were on. "I miss the way things used to be," Mia admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Oliver nodded in agreement. It was then that I realized the importance of validating their feelings, of creating a safe space where they could express their grief over our family's shifting dynamics. "It's okay to miss how things were. We all do," I reassured them, wrapping my arms around them both. "But we're still a family, and we're confident, strong together. We will find our way." Encouraged by their openness, I decided to incorporate a weekly family meeting into our routine. It became our sacred time to discuss our emotions, our hopes, and our fears. I noticed how much lighter we felt after sharing, how the words spoken at those gatherings lifted burdens we didn't even realize we were carrying. We laughed, cried, and sometimes sat in comfortable silence, learning to accept the moments of vulnerability that made us human. Amidst our hopeful bond, I began to consider my relationship with Greg. We had exchanged a few texts about practical matters concerning the kids, but beyond that, there was an unspoken distance that felt insurmountable. One evening, as I sat with my journal, I penned a letter to him. I expressed my feelings, not with anger, but with an honest longing for understanding. I wanted him to know how profoundly his choices impacted us, but also how I was learning to embrace my own path. I hoped that by sharing my truth, I might spark something within him, a reminder of the love that once bound us. After I sent the letter, I felt a mixture of anticipation and dread. Would he read it? Would it resonate? As the days passed without a response, doubt began to creep back in. Then, just as I was beginning to lose hope, my phone buzzed with a message from him. My heart raced as I opened it, ready to face whatever response awaited me.